I just want to say welcome to everyone to this fantastic event, the Clara Lemlich Awards, honoring women activists who are still fighting and encouraging us to continue to fight. And we're thrilled to be able to begin the program tonight with our favorite chorus, the labor chorus.
Yeah!
That the founder of the labor chorus was an early Lemlich honoree, Barbara, whom we all love, and we're dedicating their performance to Barbara.
everybody. First, I want to thank the choir for that incredible, incredible music. I'm Stephanie Hill-Wilchford. I'm the president of the Museum of the City of New York. I also am the daughter of CUNY professors and stand here because of PSC CUNY. PSC CUNY helped to put me through college. And this was really meaningful because part of my father's life's work was to preserve music of the Union. And so I absolutely loved hearing these songs. I'm really delighted to welcome you to the Clara Lemlich Awards here at the museum. I could not be prouder that this event is here. We are a proud union shop. We are a DC 37 shop. Yay, DC 37. Even though I stand here today as management, I fully understand the importance of unions and how unions propel people to the middle class every single day. So I'm so thrilled about this. In partnership with the Puffin Foundation, Museum of the City of New York seeks to keep the spirit of Clara Lemlich and other union organizers alive in our city through our Activist New York exhibition and programs. And I'm really proud to say that over 30,000 young people and their families have visited Activist New York just over the past year, learning about the history of civic engagement in our city. And we hope finding inspiration to realize social change in their own communities. I want to thank Gladys and Neil Rosenstein for their incredible support of this important work. And just to say that I think it's especially meaningful to be holding this ceremony today at a time when youth activism is actually more vibrant than ever. And so I don't always agree with all the visions of young people in our city, but I'm incredibly buoyed by their enthusiasm for making our world a better place. This is how our city has progressed over generations, with people like Clara Lemlich, and like so many of you in this room, and like my parents, fighting for new policies and practices that improve the lives of people. I invite you to spend some time in our exhibitions today and enjoy the museum now, today, and also in the future. And I hope that you all enjoy this event. I look forward to seeing you again here at the museum soon.
Thank you so much. We're delighted to be here. I'm Rachel Bernstein, and with Esther Cohen and Sherry Kane and Rose Imperato and a lot of other folks from the Remember the Triangle Fire Coalition and Labor Arts, in 2011, we founded the Clara Lemlich Awards. And in 2011, it was the centennial of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire, and there were 200 events around the city commemorating the fire, the activism and the outrage that brought about new laws as a result, and the victims of the fire. And we said, I think it was probably Esther, we said, we've got to honor people who are still here. And we decided to name the Clara Lemlich Awards after Clara Lemlich, who you will hear more about, who organized her entire life. And we are thrilled to be here tonight, and we'll tell you more about it momentarily. Esther's gonna, the honorees are gonna come out and sit on the stage for the rest of the program.
I want to thank everybody who came today to honor these fantastic women. And I think even before you hear anything about them, we should all give them a big round of applause. This event would not be possible without the fantastic Puffin Foundation, Neil Rosenstein and Gladys, and all the people involved with Puffin, and the ILGWU Heritage Fund, and Tamament, and our various other small funders, and the Museum of the City of New York, who hosts us every year. So thank you to everybody who makes this possible. Our program tonight is a little different from usual because we have more music and more poetry. So let's begin. It's a thrilling thing to be able to tell you that the New York State poet Patricia Spears Jones, she won the Jackson Prize and represents the state of New York and has won every possible prize in the world, and has a beautiful new book, which is on the table out there. Patricia's going to read a poem for us, so maybe 2 poems. So Patricia, will you come out and...
I am so thrilled to be here and to honor these fabulous women who have done so much for this city, and I think we should give them one more round of applause. My mother always said, everybody should get their roses while they're alive. And so here are a couple of poems that are, and they're short, so don't, just listen carefully, okay? All right, I am originally from Arkansas. I do have I have 10 books out. Only one is on the table. You can look at it and go, wow, she got Stanley Whitney to do the cover. Okay, all right, life lessons. There are many lessons learned in life, but few come from tragedy. I know what makes you stronger and all that. Rot, I say. You learn more from what makes you laugh, how much pleasure the tongue can bring and where it was placed, the sweet look on your lover's face, or how loud P-Funk could be on stage and off, not just knee-deep. The tower's falling, a man shot in the back, all terrible, but what can you do about that? What can you make of a world so wedded to injustice? How dare you name the oppressor and demand his head, his badge, his ranch, or those secret accounts in the Maldives? It is not as if the struggle is useless. It is that it continues. But joy, where is it? What does it look like, smell like? Bergamot, lemons, honey, roses, musk. To find it is to explore a path where the stumbles are many, the curses frequent, but the rewards. And then finally, and this is really for all the mothers. And some of y'all, I actually did see a picture of Gina Lola Brigida doing this exercise. Bicycle, bicycle. I can see my mother pumping her legs, a daily exercise, thin palette on the linoleum, mosquitoes on the other side of the screen door. She raises and lowers her legs on a journey to better health. I can see her, see mothers across America, their legs vigorously riding bicycles in air, bikes with thick tires, sporting wire baskets and heavy brakes, bicycles that said, if you pump hard enough, fast enough, we will take you where you need to go. Thank you.
Now I want to introduce somebody whose great-grandmother was Clara Lemlich. His grandmother, Rita Margulies, was one of the first honorees in 2011. She came to every award ceremony up until she passed last year. And I am thrilled to introduce Michael Miller, who in 2014, when he was in 8th grade, spoke at a Clara Lemlich Award ceremony. And he's back with us now, having graduated from Georgetown School of Foreign Service with a degree in international politics and Arabic, and a job at Accenture Federal Services, helping federal agencies be more efficient. So thank you for being here, Michael. Please come up. Michael Miller, great-grandson, Clara Lemlich.
Thank you so much, Rachel, Esther, Labor Arts, and the Museum of the City of New York for putting on such a great event for the 14th year. My name is Michael, and I'm proud to call Clara Lemlich my great-grandmother and speak on behalf of my family today. Clara was an immigrant, a firebrand, and most importantly, a fighter. Clara was never willing to accept the injustice that she and other working-class women experienced. When she was a child, her parents forbade her from learning Russian, so she earned money sewing buttonholes to pay for her books, and she learned Russian in secret. Then, when her family came to the States, she and other garment workers worked in sweatshops underpaid and mistreated. It was in these sweatshops that Clara's fighting spirit compelled her to lead the largest strike of women workers to date, with 20,000 women taking up the cause. With 20,000 women taking up the cause and fighting with her. Clara was arrested 17 times, and even after her ribs were broken, she was back on the picket line within days. Just like the women honored today, Clara's activism was a lifelong fight. Clara helped to found the Wage Earners League for Women's Suffrage. She led rent strikes, protested the rising cost of meat and housing, and ran for local office. Even in her retirement home, Clara helped the nurses organize for union representation. Clara never stopped fighting injustice. And Clara's fighting spirit lived on through her daughter, Rita, my grandmother, up until her final days. Rita was also a lifelong activist and an honoree here in 2011. Rita spent her adult life building and leading a housing program for low-income senior citizens in Flushing and served on its executive board even at 98 years old. I feel so happy to say that Clara and Rita's fighting spirit is alive and well in each of the women honored today, championing the cause of peace, equality, and dignity through community organizing, making many sacrifices along the way. On behalf of my family, I just want to extend my congratulations to this year's honorees, and thank you everyone for coming today.
Thank you, Michael. Brina Clark is a prize-winning author of 4 wonderful books, including the recent Alive Nearby, and she's the co-founder of the Hobart Festival of Women Writers. She's here to introduce Priscilla Bassett.
Thank you, Esther. And I'd just like to say that I am honored, truly honored, to have once again been asked to participate in the Clara Lemlich Awards ceremony. It's really inspirational, and it's an honor to be in the company of such distinguished women. And especially I'd like to thank Esther Cohen and Rachel Bernstein for their valuable work. Yes. I'm here this evening to introduce a woman I have just met. Priscilla Bassett. I do feel as though I know her by her deeds, however. In viewing the oral history video she prepared with her husband, Dr. Emmett W. Bassett, I could understand a great deal about her. Clear-eyed, intellectually rigorous, gentle. In speaking with her briefly by phone, I understood a good deal more about her. She has witnessed the important events of the last half of the 20th century. More than simply a bystander to history, Priscilla Bassett has been a witness, an activist, and a community builder. Those attributes are clear in the ways that Priscilla engages. She grew up in Plainfield, New Jersey, and was educated there. She began her activism early. She met her life partner and husband, Dr. Emmett W. Bassett, while attending Smith College. They became acquainted at a protest to integrate a segregated roadhouse restaurant in Massachusetts. I love it. I just love it. What a story. The two then combined forces to work for civil rights. They attended the March on Washington, raised funds for the mother of Emmett Till, and worked to improve social acceptance and civil rights for interracial couples. Priscilla participated in the Poor People's March, a memorable and important event in my life. I was born and raised in the District of Columbia, and I remember this moment very well. After graduating from Smith College, Priscilla has had a varied career, including at the New York Public Library, Life magazine, and as a librarian at a number of progressive independent schools in New York City. And you can look at her bio in your program and on the website for the full list of her activities. She has been active in SLAC, the Seniors Legislative Action Committee of Sullivan County, New York. I'm very fond of this quote that I found from Priscilla. Never doubt the energy that a group of fired up seniors can bring to causes they believe in. I love it. I love it. Well, I count myself in that cadre, and I am inspired by the life of Priscilla Teachin Bassett. Priscilla?
Let me begin by saying how honored I am to be selected for the Clara Lemlich Award in the company of such distinguished, wonderful women. I remember well attending commemorations of the Triangle Shirtwaist factory fire when I worked close by at Little Red Schoolhouse. I'd like to thank Rachel Bernstein, who made the call to my home and of course did so much organizing along with Esther Cohen and others. And I have to tell you, hearing the New York State poet and then being fired up by the New York Labor Chorus, I'm just beginning to feel maybe I'm supposed to be here. I don't know. But I want to thank my daughter Mary for telling Rachel that I definitely would accept, and my daughter Lydia and my son Jonathan for supporting me in preparing to participate in this celebration of activism, of all of us, activism, not just me. This is an activism celebration. I will be 96 years old in just, and you too, one of you also. I will be 96 years old in just a few days, and to be honest, this award is a bit overwhelming. Clara Lemlich, too, lived a long life, though her public prominence came from her union or activism during her 20s. She never stopped. That is my most important message to all of us here today. I have not seen much change, as much as I would have liked, but the change that I have seen has been the result of activism. As Frederick Douglass once put it, power concedes nothing without demand. It never has, and it never will. Clara was motivated by the need for respect for working people. She believed their labor should provide not wealth for the few, but decent lives for all workers. This idea is as much a call to action today as it was over a century ago. Now, more than ever, we need a world where people can be assured of dignified lives. Our very planet is at risk due to the climate crisis, a direct effect of human actions and behavior. Speaking of human actions, there are too many wars all around our world: Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. The cost to civilians is always high, but the loss of life with the Israeli military action in Gaza has been unprecedented in recent times. We can never agree that the solution to a problem is to kill children and their families. My husband Emmett and I chose together to place ourselves in the struggle against war, racism, and poverty, and for peace. I confess the present state of our world is painful for me, but the habits of a lifetime will sustain us. Treasure friends and family. Stay informed and aware. Stay active. Work with others. The struggle continues. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. It's such an honor to meet each of you this year, and such a treasure to hear from you. I want to introduce Amelia Farley, who is a young writer and editor based in New York City. She writes about art, infrastructure, and the history of science. She's published criticism in Art Forum and the Brooklyn Rail, and is an activist in her own right, and will be introducing Muriel Fox.
I'll just join the chorus again of thanking Esther Cohen and Rachel Bernstein for all of their incredible organizing for this amazing event. It is such a thrill and an honor to be here honoring these incredible women on the stage. And it is my privilege to introduce Muriel Fox, a feminist champion whose contributions profoundly shaped the landscape of gender equality in the US. Muriel's activism began with the co-founding of the National Organization for Women, known as NOW, in 1966. Her leadership, yeah. Her leadership within NOW was instrumental in advancing the feminist movement. Serving as the inaugural head of public relations for NOW and as the operations lieutenant to President Betty Friedan, Muriel was pivotal in shaping the organization's strategy. She played a crucial role in challenging discriminatory practices in the workplace and advocating for women's rights across various spheres of social reproduction. Muriel spearheaded NOW's public relations efforts, writing and distributing the organization's first press releases, as well as founding and editing its first national newsletter called Do It Now. She was at the forefront of NOW's campaign to convince President Lyndon Johnson to add women to Executive Order 11246 in October 1967, a landmark decision that established non-discriminatory practices in hiring and employment, opening doors and access for millions of women. In 1970, Muriel testified before Congress to argue for equalizing pensions, demonstrating her commitment to women's righteous fight for labor equity on multiple fronts. Her advocacy extended well beyond the boardroom, addressing issues across a variety of sectors, including education, healthcare, hospitality, and manufacturing, where she fought tirelessly for equality and justice. Through landmark legal cases and strategic communication, Muriel made significant strides in dismantling sexist barriers. Across this capacious feminist legacy, Muriel has often stressed the importance of strong labor unions in combating income inequality, emphasizing the urgency for an ongoing struggle for equal opportunities for women of all backgrounds and circumstances. Since 1993, Muriel has served as the chair of the board of Veteran Feminists of America, and she continues to write and advocate. Her forthcoming book, The Women's Revolution: How We Changed Your Life, slated for release on June 18th with New Village Press, provides a rare and comprehensive firsthand account of the second wave women's movement, offering insight into the strategies, successes, and individuals who drove this historic transformation. Her index memoir is built from the primary sources of her own feminism files, containing hundreds of letters, clippings, notes, and photographs that she meticulously archived. Today, as we honor Muriel Fox's lifetime of achievement, we recognize the progress made and the work that still lies ahead. Muriel's enduring legacy is a powerful affirmation of the importance of collective action and a call to the future to carry the struggle forward. Please join me in welcoming Muriel Fox.
Thank you so much for this cherished honor. My book, The Women's Revolution, says something you all know, but we must keep reminding the public. I say in my book, quote, "We must fight for regulations that make it easier for workers to join labor unions." Viable labor unions are essential for preserving the middle class. Since the decline of union power in this country, millions of workers have descended from comfortable security into poverty. Within corporations, the salary gap between top management and workers grew from a ratio of 20 to 1 in 1965 to 399 to 1 in 2021, and it's grown since then. We must make unions strong again.
Yes.
Now, some critics say our women's revolution has helped only elite women, but that is not true. We changed the workplace forever for all women. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited all forms of discrimination by employers, but the government was not enforcing the law against sex discrimination. Our revolution forced the government to take gender discrimination seriously. It was hard work, but we succeeded. Our revolution began with the founding of NOW, the National Organization for Women, on October 29, 1966. That's when it all began. The government was not banning newspaper ads that said help wanted male and help wanted female. Our revolution ended that discrimination. The government was not enforcing Title IX, which prohibits sex discrimination in education, but the Now Legal Defense and Education Fund, which is now called Legal Momentum, and our feminist allies forced them to change this. We put pressure on the federal government and local school boards by mobilizing parents and educators and local officials. Now women can get into colleges and graduate schools, and women teachers get fair pay and promotions. Our struggle has made a tremendous difference. Our first cases were on behalf of working women. Our first lawsuit won Velma Mengelkock and all women factory workers the right to be promoted to better jobs with overtime pay, despite the so-called protective laws that restricted the number of hours that a woman could work. In our case against Colgate-Palmolive, we won women the right to be included in seniority lists instead of separate lists that excluded women. In another case, for a prisoner by the name of Jane Daniels, we overturned laws that say convicted women would be given longer sentences than men because, quote, women took longer to rehabilitate than men. Can you believe that? In another case, We helped Ida Phillips sue Martin Marietta Corporation for refusing to accept job applications from women with very young children. No longer can companies refuse to hire women with preschool-aged children while hiring men with those children. I could go on and on. Our movement works for all women. As Betty Friedan, our founder, put it, in fully equal partnership with men. It wasn't easy. We suffered from many defeats and mistakes of our own, but we've had a lot of success. We have more to come, I hope. I hope we can inspire a new generation of women and men to continue our battle for the good of all people everywhere. Thank you so much.
Neil Rosenstein is a friend and a person whose vision was part of the Puffin Foundation's notion to open the activist gallery. How many years ago was it? 22 years ago. For those people who have never been to the Activist Gallery today, the museum is keeping it open so that we can see it afterwards. And Neil's going to tell us a little about that vision now. Neil?
Thanks so much. It is, of course, I'm going to add, what an honor it is to be standing on this stage. But Muriel, you lost your chance. I know it's been challenged in court, but there is, I think, the New York State Equal Rights Amendment, which may be on the ballot this fall. So make sure you get out to vote on that, if for nothing else. It was about 23 years ago, my father came up with the idea of hosting a gallery on social activism. And these crazy folks at the Museum of the City of New York agreed to it. It's really pretty stunning. There's nothing else like it in the rest of the country. And I know Stephanie isn't here right now, but the museum deserves an incredible amount of credit. And we hope you'll go upstairs and you'll take a look at it. And I also want to let you know we're supporting an exhibit on Shirley Chisholm and her life. And that's going to be opening up next month. And we're just one of many supporters of that exhibit, but it's a fantastic opportunity to come back to the museum in a month or so. And they're just fantastic things that do happen here. And what Stephanie said earlier about 30,000 school kids, it's the most requested trip to the museum for teachers is to go to that Activist New York exhibit, and no wonder. People have referenced it to a little bit at a time where the world is, well, I guess the world is seemingly always beset by wars and injustice and economic inequality and racial injustice and the like. What an extraordinary opportunity, and we have to take every opportunity we can to honor and to cherish the activists and I'll use the phrase warriors, pardon me, and the fighters for racial justice and for economic justice and social justice. And this isn't looking in the past, this is still looking forward, because I know there's plenty of good years left in all of you. And we're here to celebrate not only the past and looking forward to the future. And as was said about those 30,000 school kids that came here this year, I wish as well that they could be hearing your stories, and I'm sure labor ought to be working to make sure that's the case, to be inspired for many, many years to come. So we salute you, we salute everybody here and the activists of the future, and want to thank you once again. Theodora?
Thank you, Neil. Keeping with the theme of activism, and especially how music inspires so much important activism in this country, I want to introduce our singer, Antoinette Montague, a jazz and blues singer who uses her music to fight for civil and human rights. She's a founder and CEO of the Jazz Women to the Rescue. She teaches and performs for young and old alike, including Jazz at Lincoln Center's Syncopated Leadership Workshop, Music on the Inside for the Incarcerated, Jazz Power Initiative, Jazzmobile Festivals, and ever so much more. I want to welcome Antoinette Montague and her accompanist, Danny Mixon, to the stage.
Good evening. High honor to be here. High honor to also be a part of the jazz world. And so we're here to celebrate our Dorthaan Kirk, who is one of your celebrants tonight, but for all of our sisters in our family. Can't sing it, can you? Yeah, that's it. Sisters, you've been on my mind. Sisters, we're two of a kind. Sisters, I'm keeping my eye on you. I bet you think I don't know nothing but singing the blues. Oh, sweet sisters, have I got news for you? I'm something. I hope you think that you're something too. Scuffling, I've been up that lonesome road and seen a lot of suns go down. But trust me, no lowlife better try not to run you round. So let me tell you something, sisters. Remember your name. Don't let no sucker steal your joy away. My sister, we sure ain't got a whole lot of time. Oh. Sisters, we're two of a kind. My sisters, I'm keeping my eye on you and you and you. I bet you don't think I know nothing but singing the blues. Oh, sweet sisters, if I got news for you, I'm something. I hope you think you're something too. Scuffling, been up that lonesome road, and you've seen a lot of suns go down. Oh, but trust me, no low life ever is gonna ever run you or me around. Sisters, remember your space. Don't let nobody take away your grace. My sisters, we sure ain't got a whole lot of time. I ain't lying. Throw your arms up and shake your shimmy. Come on. Shake your shimmy. Oh, shake your shimmy. Shake your shimmy. My sisters, you all are doing just fine. God bless you. God bless you. Mr. Danny Mixon on piano.
That was a perfect lead-in to Dorthaan Kirk. Sheila Anderson, who's introducing Dorthaan, is the host of a jazz show on WBGO, America's premier jazz station. She's the author of 3 books and a festival producer. Sheila Anderson.
Thank you. And I'm also a recent union member. About a year or so ago, WBGO is unionized, SAG-AFTRA, so I'm proud to be here amongst so many union organizers and members. Thank you very much. I'm honored. Thank you for Dorthaan for asking me to introduce you. But you know, it's not a. She said, "Oh, it's 3 minutes." I said, "Well." She said it's a long time, and it's true because it's very hard to talk about someone who you've known for so many years. I met Dorthaan Kirk in 1987 when I started to volunteer for WBGO, and she's Newark's first lady of jazz, but to many of us who she calls family, she's Ma or Mother Kirk to us. She has lived her life and lives her life and continues to live her life in service to the jazz community at large, to her church community, her family, and then, as I said, those of us who she has embraced as her family. She is the mother to all of us and always checks in on us, and I told her it's her job to worry, and she takes that seriously. We love Dorthaan Kirk. But she brings passion and love in everything that she does. And when I think about all the many hats that she wears, especially at WBGO, not only did she was a community organizer, she curated the gallery exhibits, the Kids Jazz Series is still going on to this day 25 years later, and she's still working on that. But when I think about how she's always thinking about how this is going to benefit someone. For example, the Kids Series, she would give out things at the end, and it's like, oh, this will be great for the kids series, or oh, this will be great for the community. And sometimes she gets a lot of pushback for some of her ideas. One being, years ago, Dorthaan curated an exhibit on the Newark riots, 1967 riots. And people kind of, gave her a little pushback about it, but she persevered. And the reception, she brought together ex-mayors, Kenneth Gibson, Sharp James, Cory Booker was mayor at the time, and people who had participated in or been around at the time of the riots. And it was an incredible evening, one of many that she curated. And the 25th anniversary WBGO was phenomenal, but everything Dorthaan touches is gold, and she touches with love. And I am so happy that you are honoring her tonight because she is deserving. And at 86, soon to be 86, she's still going strong. So thank you. We love you, Dorthaan. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila, for the introduction. Sheila is not just a WBGO ex-employee to me, she's extended family. And I tell you, we've experienced some things together that you wouldn't believe, but that's another story. Thank all of you for coming out. Thanks to Rachel, Esther, and the committee for honoring me. My notes are in my pocketbook, but I'm going off the top of my head. They asked me to speak about just a couple of events that I have been involved in or produced over the years. Today I invited a few of my friends, and actually a couple came, more than a couple, So I'm going to start out by explaining to you how I came to WBGO. I try not to tell the whole story, but I knew nothing about radio except to turn it on, turn it off, and find a station on the dial. Before WBGO, I traveled on the road with the deceased Dorthaan Kirk, who I was met. Thank you. Thank you. And so when he died, I was left without knowing what I was going to do. When you travel on the road, you meet many different people. Some of them became friends. This friend and Dorthaan did a radio project together, interestingly enough, and he knew, at the time he lived in Boston, where he currently lives, but he's made a few stops in different other states since then. And so he worked in radio. They did a radio project together. So after Dorthaan died, as I said, this person came to me and said, this radio station is starting in Newark. I'm going to recommend that the general manager hire you. And I said, what, you crazy? I don't know anything about radio. But he insisted. I was the third person that was hired there in 1979, working 4 hours a day, making $2.50 an hour as the receptionist. And of course, the rest is history. And I'm happy to say that person and I are still in touch, collaborating on different events. And guess what? He's back in Boston, but he had business in New York, and he's here today, my friend Steve Robinson. So Esther and Rachel, that worked out perfectly, absolutely perfect, which is kind of how my life has been. None of the things that I have done have I gone after or planned or anything. They came to me, and when they did, I just embraced them. And then I did the best I could. I reached out to whoever I thought could help me, and the rest is history. One of the other projects I would like to talk, one of the projects rather at BGO, as Sheila mentioned to you, the WBGO Children's Concerts started in 1993. They were not my original idea. Rather, they were the idea of Emily, who owned trumpets in Montclair. She did a children's concert on the weekends, and there came a time that she said to me, you know, I'd like to do this in the urban area. So I said, okay. To make a long story short, she ended up presenting it in WBGO's studios, which seats about 70 concert style. At first we did 2 seatings, 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. It became, this was in 1993. It became so popular, we moved it into the community, and it still exists today. But to digress, there's a young man that is a piano player and more that came to WBGO when he was in high school. Is that right, Eli? Did I get it right? And so he was an intern there. And to make a very long story short, Today, he presents a program, the Jazz Initiative. Antoinette, who you just heard, is part of that, and it's in Washington Heights. And so he's carrying on. He was just on TV on ABC a couple of weeks ago. What was the program? I put it on Facebook. What? Yes, Tiempo. So please stand, Eli, and let people know who you are. So he's also one of my children. And I have many, many, many of them, and I love them all, and they have to carry on when I'm no longer here. One of the other things that I was involved in, and it was a series of lunchtime concerts. I know some of you must know about these concerts. They were at the Torno Time Machine. Lunchtime, anybody? Anyhow, those concerts were produced by WBGO, sponsored by Oris Watches and Torno Time Machine. And guess what? The president of Oris Watches is here today, and we remain, at the time, president of Oris Watches. We've stayed in touch all these years, and I want him to stand. Mark Wasserman, where are you? I think we did those about 15 years, 12, because they also produced concerts at lunchtime with CD 101 at the then World Trade Center. So that was a time ago. I guess I'm getting up to my 3 minutes, but one more thing. I just have to share this with you. In 2000, my church, Bethany Baptist in Newark, had a very, very new pastor that had vision, and he was very contemporary, so to speak. He was a jazz aficionado, still is. And so he came up with the idea that jazz should be in a Baptist church. Well, if you know anything about Baptists, that's taboo. Having said that, next year, 2025, Bethany Baptist in Newark will celebrate 25 years of Jazz Vespers. Any of you go to St. Peter's? Absolutely. We got our idea from St. Peter's at 54th and Lexington. And so those are just a few of the things that I have done over the years, and it's worked, and I hope they continue. And thanks again.
I am really honored to introduce somebody who needs no introduction. Gail Brewer represents New York City's 6th Council District. She was Manhattan Borough President and got some amazing things done, including adding caregivers to the city's anti-discrimination law and removing criminal history questions from initial employment applications, and a host of other things. And she's always at the Lemlich Awards. Gail, we're so happy you're here.
Thank you very much. I must admit, it's a huge honor to be here today. And when you look at the list of honorees today and in the past, you see New York City at its very, very best. And it really is just, it's phenomenal to be here. So congratulations to everybody. Your stories make us proud and make us so happy to hear them. I can't even tell you. Even Newark. I've only been to Newark once, and it's fabulous. But I do want to say, just based on the woman whom we're honoring, Clara Lemlich, just the fact that she was so known for her work in the labor movement, her speeches and all the organizing that she did, and the fact that she was local, was talking about food and rent strikes, convincing the administration to support the United Farm Workers, boycotts, nurses, union representation, things that we care about so much. So I thought one example today, I'm very supportive of the 65,000 deliveristas. These are people who deliver our food, and it's been quite an honor to support them. But it takes a great deal of work. And they have an executive director, something called the Workers' Justice Project. So they are actually organized, whether they are from Bangladesh or Latino or from Africa. They're very organized. And this particular woman, Lucia Galapia, who has staff, not doing it by herself, but she has done many things to support them. But one of them was to raise the minimum pay for the workers. And it finally passed last December, and it was just one of the ways in which she has been supportive. But just to give an example of what she did with the workers and with those who care, like me and like you, 1,619 letters to Mayor Adams, 20 rallies or more, those are just the ones we're able to find, 15 worker education events, a new website often, a customer activist roundtable event, and many, many fundraisers. And I can say it was constant. And then, of course, finally, she got it done with the city council and with those of us in the room who advocated. But that was a modern-day example of Clara Lemlich. And then, of course, Jane Jacobs always told us that if you say yes, but, your butt gets lost. So you have to say, as a negotiator, first you say no. And when the proposal is off the table, you agree to negotiate a new appropriate plan. So she won more battles than anyone else because she never said yes. She said yes, but. And so her wisdom to remain a beacon for all of us. And that's, of course, what's here and what's in the room. And that's why today's program is so special. You know how to negotiate for the very best for the people you care about. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jeremy Lenz is the Director of Special Projects for the Puffin Foundation, and he's here to introduce our next honoree, Theodora Lacey. Jeremy?
It is such a pleasure and an honor to be here tonight to introduce my friend, my mentor, my fellow community organizer, Theodora Smiley Lacey, or Theo, as we more affectionately call her. So in my role with the Puffin Foundation, I'm also executive director of the Teaneck International Film Festival, and I was asked to tell some anecdotes about Theo, and I recalled the first time that I met Theo was in 2010 when I took over the film festival. We were doing a film called Neshoba about the infamous Mississippi County where Andrew Goodman, Michael Schwerner, and James Chaney were murdered during the Freedom Summer of 1964. And we were organizing a panel with the filmmaker and the Andrew Goodman Foundation, and Gladys and Perry Rosenstein, the founders of the Puffin, approached me and they said, you need to reach out to Mrs. Lacey to be on this panel. And that was my first introduction to Theo, and I got to know a champion among civil rights legends who lived in my community of Teaneck, New Jersey. So I would go on to get to know her as a friend and find out that her father was on the board of directors that brought Martin Luther King to Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. She worked and organized in the Montgomery bus boycott. She moved to Teaneck, and she led the integration movement in Teaneck, New Jersey, which ultimately became the first township in the history of the United States that voted to voluntarily desegregate its public school system in the 1960s. And it goes on and on. Our film festival, the Teaneck International Film Festival, was also co-founded in partnership with two Black women's advocacy organizations, the National Coalition of 100 Black Women and the Links of Bergen County, who Theo was the founding chapter member. And we just celebrated our 50th anniversary of the Links chapter in Bergen County this year. And Theo was the founding president of that chapter, to be followed by Cory Booker's mother, our current New Jersey state senator, just to put it into perspective. She came aboard, she joined the TIF Planning Committee, and it was through her guidance that after we did Neshoba, we realized we are an activist community. We do the work of the Puffin that provides grant funding to so many marginalized groups, and we decided to establish our permanent theme of activism making change. And she has been on our board, who continues to guide us through so much. And ultimately, the work doesn't end. During COVID, I was asked to be a co-petitioner on a referendum to move our local council election from May to November. And Theo was the co-petitioner with the Senate Majority Leader of New Jersey, Loretta Weinberg, so I was in good company. Little did we know that we would go from petitioners to plaintiffs in a lawsuit, and ended up suing the township because of voter suppression. And we ultimately won the lawsuit and got the referendum on the ballot in Teaneck, New Jersey. And guess what? The ballot initiative won overwhelmingly. So I have been so blessed to be in the company of just such a great. And ultimately, Theo is someone who continues to make history. She's an activist in every decade of her life, continuing to do the work, and has given a life of service to her community, to her nation. And it is the greatest honor for me to be able to introduce her and to present my friend and my mentor with the Clara Lemlich Award. Thank you. Theo.
Oh my, Jeremy, you've given my speech. There's very little for me to say, except, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the Clara Lemlich family for continuing to perpetuate the ideas of peace and understanding and appreciation of one another. You know, you have to be a part of it if you want to see change, if you want things to be different, if you truly believe that we are all humankind, then you have to be a part of it. This ceremony helps to continue that kind of thinking. I am awed sitting here on the stage with these wonderful people. I had to pinch myself and said, I'm not sure I really belong here. But it is so inspiring to see women who have, through the decades, given their time and energy to make a difference. If you read a little about my bio, you know that I'm a long, long way from home. Montgomery, Alabama. Beautiful town, city, the capital of the state. But there was a very dark side to Montgomery that was filled with prejudice and discrimination. I was not allowed to play in the public parks or to attend in a school that I would like to, public school that I would like to, because of segregation. You know the story of the Montgomery bus boycott. I could cite many instances of people being arrested and abused just for taking a seat on the bus. You see, there was always an attempt to make you feel that you were inferior just because of the color of your skin. I am so fortunate that I grew up in a family that taught me that no matter what others say negatively about you, learn as much as you can and store it in your mind, because one of these days you're going to be able to go in a department store, try on clothes, not have your mother take the shape of your foot to buy your shoes because you couldn't sit to have to buy new shoes, that you are going to be able to do many things. Said that people, you must learn to appreciate people, even those who seem to be determined to make you feel inferior. Because when you grow up and you learn and you vote, you're going to help to put people in office who can make a change. Well, I'm not sure I understood that growing up, but I was fortunate enough to live long enough to see that kind of change. Montgomery, as I said, the capital of the state, I could not go into the judicial building, not even the Capitol ground. Well, I stand here today to say that I cannot count on one hand the number of my relatives that are lawyers and judges and making a change in the South, throughout the South. Sometimes the struggle seems endless and that there is no hope. But for all the young activists here today, I can assure you that with struggle there comes change. Be persistent, be a part of the action and do what you can. Fortunately, I was able to move from Montgomery, the segregated, discriminating town, to New York City. The last time I saw my friend Martin Luther King was in New Jersey, and he teased me about having abandoned the South and come to the North. I assured him that there was plenty of discrimination. The signs were not as large and visible, but the methods and the attitudes and behavior was there. And so while I fell in love with the quaint town called Teaneck, there were also problems there as well, and immediately became involved in fair housing, and as Jeremy indicated, in helping to desegregate the school system due to housing patterns, not signs or laws on the books that said you could not live in certain areas, but that there were underlying methods that were used to make sure that if you were a color, you only could live in a certain area. And because of that, the schools in the predominantly African-American section of town became increasingly less as academically and economically affordable as the other neighborhood schools. So we worked very hard to make that change. Change is something that comes about if you're willing to give the time to do it. I am so proud to be a part of organizing a group called Teens Talk About Racism, because our young people are the ones who are going to make that kind of change. In closing, I'd like to say that I learned so much from my family and my neighbors and friends. But Martin Luther King taught me that the most urgent and persistent question is, what have you done for others? And so I have tried to spend my life doing what I can to make change, to bring about peace and understanding among all people. Thank you so much for this prestigious award.
Before we get to our our last honoree, last but not least, we always like to have a report from the front. And this year, our Reporter is Jennifer Salgado, the lead organizer with the Street Vendor Project, who was born and raised in the Bronx. Her advocacy at the Street Vendor Project pays homage to her family, who turned to street vending when they first arrived from a small town in Guerrero, Mexico. I welcome you to the stage, Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to all the organizers who put on this beautiful event, and for the invitation to speak to all of you today. I'm honored to be standing here surrounded by so much power and wisdom that's just seeping out of the room. Now, my name is Jennifer Salgado, and I'm the lead organizer at the Street Vendor Project, and the proud daughter of a former street vendor. And I'm joined here today by two of our member leaders, Teresa Wright, who's in the back, who is a general merchandise vendor along Central Harlem, and Guadalupe Sosa, who's a food vendor along East Harlem. So have a lot of representation today from Harlem. The Street Vendor Project is a nonprofit organization advocating and organizing with street vendors across New York City for a better vending system. So now I'm gonna do a quick little activity to move around a little bit. And so I'm gonna ask that you all please raise your hand if you know a street vendor. So raise your hand if you know a street vendor. Okay, look around. Please raise your hand if you've ever purchased handcrafted jewelry or art from a street vendor. A lot of us, okay. Now, please raise your hand if you've ever purchased a pretzel from a street vendor. What about mangoes or ices in the summer? Yeah, it's an overwhelming amount of us. So a lot of us have come across street vendors at one point in our lives, some of us on a daily basis. Well, how would you feel if I told you that these same street vendors haven't been able to apply for a license or a permit in over 30 years? Not just that, they are also now facing harassment by the same city that has refused to create new pathways for formalization of the street vending industry. So, tough, yeah, but that's also the reality of what a lot of us are living in New York City. While a lot of us here today have done amazing work, as a lot of them said, the work continues, the fight continues. So now if you could all take a few seconds to sign on to our petition where we're calling on City Council to pass a street vendor reform package that will provide business licensing, city services that will provide much needed educational resources to vendors. And to read more about our campaign, our members Lupe and Teresa will help distribute our one-pagers with a QR code that you can sign on to show your support. Now, if you live in New York City, in any of the 5 boroughs, I have a special ask. I have with me some postcards to send to your city council members. So if you want to take that extra step, please find me today. I would really appreciate it, and so will our members, Teresa and Lupe in the back. So thank you all for your time.
Our last honoree is a union sister of mine, Estela Vazquez. And you're going to hear all about Estela from Estela, but first, Lucia Gomez, the political director of the New York City Central Labor Council, is going to officially introduce her.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lucia Gomez. As you heard, I have the honor and privilege of not just being amongst all of you today and amongst all of you in the crowd, but with my friend and mentor, Estela Vazquez. Estela comes and reigns from 1199, one of our largest and most powerful union in the state of New York. She not only was an organizer, a vice president, an executive vice president, an officer, as many of us within the labor movement understand what a feat that is in the state of New York, having the largest density in the country. But Estela not only embodied the values of the labor movement, Estela was about people. She was about community. She wasn't about organizing and advocating on behalf of folks. She was about ensuring that everyone was empowered so that they had a chance to fight and they had a chance to have a voice at the table. For a young Latina growing up in the labor movement and not having a legacy not having the history and the connection and the words to the lyrics of the labor chorus at hand, memorized, or that kind of connection to the movement, it was critical to see warriors like Estela that looked like us, that spoke like us, that spoke like my mother, that was able to bring so many of us into the movement and say, you belong here. You are not an imposter. You are part of this movement. And for me, that is the type of leadership we need in this movement today. The type of leadership that knows that it's not about them, it is about the future. And every single time I see Estela, she asks me about my daughter. Every single time I see Estela, she asks me, how are you doing? How do you feel? And to remain in the labor movement for over 30 years, the way Estela has, and she continues, because that's exactly where her heart is. It doesn't end when you retire. But to be able to be in this movement the way it is and maintain that connection with people, with values, and with the fight is difficult, but doable. And a representation that everyone in this community fights for the dignity and respect for workers, for the dignity and respect to have a voice, not just at the job, but in your neighborhoods and in your community. And that is why, Estela, you're not only deserving of this award, but my goodness, there will not be any award sufficient enough to demonstrate what kind of legacy you'll be leaving all of us in the labor movement, and so many young women that see you and know that it is possible to fight for those that don't have and those that need more of you. Thank you so much.
Buenas tardes, familia. Good afternoon. Are fighting people in the house? Are people that fight against racism in the house? Are people that fight for peace in the house? Are people that are ready to do what is necessary to ensure that a better world is possible in the house? My name is, as my young sister introduced me, Estela Vazquez. I was born in the Dominican Republic 76 years ago. I arrived in New York August 13, 1965. Out of jail. I have been in jail for 4 months in an infamous jail in the Dominican Republic in the capital city named La Victoria, where I was arrested by the Dominican Army in conjunction with U.S. Marines that were sent to the Dominican Republic by President Lyndon B. Johnson, who claimed that the struggle for democracy and the popular insurrection was being led by 55 communists. And for those 55 communists, Lyndon B. Johnson sent 42,000 U.S. Marines. You heard the number? 42,000 Marines that stayed in the country until September of 1966. So you can imagine my cultural shock coming to New York. My mother, a factory worker and a member of the ILGWU, was not knowing English, able, when they reopened the airport in the country, to fly to the Dominican Republic and bring my sister, my brother, and I to New York. And New York was a damn shock to me. I did not speak any English. There was not a large Latino community that is there now in here. And I have come from a city that was occupied by U.S. Marines, where one word that was not new in English was Yankees go home. And coming to the United States, besides the shock of not knowing the language, the experience of 4 months in jail, at the end of 1965, I realized that there was also a working class struggle in this country, at least in this city. And it was when the Transit Workers Union
under the leadership of Mike Quill, called a transit strike that lasted 12 days. And I say, oh shit, excuse my English. There is a working class in the belly of the beast that also will fight for justice and for workers' rights. And throughout my earlier years in New York, especially after I was able to somehow master the English language with the help of the Daily News and the Velázquez Dictionary, there was the emergence of groups like the Black Panthers, the Young Lords, El Comité in the West Side, that also inspired me to get engaged, to participate. There were people like a brother in Harlem, Elon Bebrath, that in the early 70s got me engaged in the struggle for the freedom of Nelson Mandela and to end apartheid in South Africa. And eventually, I joined, became part of the most extraordinary union in the city of New York, in my opinion. 1199, the Hospital Workers Union. A union with an incredible history of struggle. 1199 was founded in 1932 by a group of Jewish pharmacists in what was called, at that time, soda jerks. That doesn't exist anymore in the city. But in 1959, under the leadership of Leon Davis, they called a strike that was illegal because hospital workers did not have the right to organize into unions in 1959. They waged a 46-day strike, right near here at Mount Sinai Hospital, a strike that saw horses attacking the strikers, a strike that got Leon Davis in jail because he refused to call off the strike, but a strike that finally ended with the right of workers for representation in a number of hospitals in the city. And I usually tell people, for me, it was a privilege and an honor working in 1199. A union that was the first one in the city in the 60s to denounce the war in Vietnam. A union that Dr. Martin Luther King said he spoke so many times at 1199 that he felt he was a member, and he called us our favorite union. But a union that believed that the work for workers' rights was not only in the hospital floors or in the nursing homes. The fight for workers' rights has no limits, and the fight for the working class has no borders. If the capitalists can globalize profit-making, we, the workers, should globalize workers' solidarity. I want to thank each and every one of my fellow honorees, and especially Rachel and my co-worker that I haven't seen in some time, Esther, for this award. But I would also like to take this opportunity to say that I want to share this award with a number of women that are not here with us, that have joined the ancestors, but over the years, they were an inspiration, they were an example, and they supported me all along the way. Esmeralda Brown, Numsa Brathwaite, Viola Plummer, Viney Barrows, and Meryl Ratner. I also will be, is something that is, I think is important. I think I would like to share this award with Leder Peltier and Mumia Abu Jamal. Free all political prisoners, free them all. And as we say In the labor movement, the struggles continue. But I would like to remind people that for us, Latinos and African Americans, we are the daughters, granddaughters, great-great-great-great-granddaughters for 18 generations in this continent. Since Columbus got lost, it was found by the Arawak and the Taino Indians in the Caribbean. We are the descendants today of all those fighters that they could not kill, and we will continue the fight.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to call Rose Imperato up for last words. She's been with us since the very beginning, and she'll tell you more.
So as the last speaker, I talk really fast, okay? So just hang tight. Okay, they're not all sitting here again, but Muriel Fox, Dorthaan Kirk, Theodora Lacey, Priscilla Bassett, Estela Vazquez, please.
Wow.
Wow. Oh my gosh. What an evening. I just have two tasks here. If on your way out you have not grabbed a commemorative Triangle Fire dedication book, please do. We were given a grant by Humanities to print 5,000 copies. I think we have left maybe half of those, Joel and Andy. Board members here from remember the Triangle Fire Coalition if you want to learn more. But the good news is the third and final stage of the installation of the long-awaited Triangle Fire Memorial is happening in weeks. Please go by and visit it and bring future generations. Thank you. And we need you to volunteer and educate people in the future about what that did and what Clara Lemlich's role was in the uprising of the 20,000. And in my hand here, if you haven't received one of these cards, hold up a hand, somebody will bring you one. We want to know you're here. And if you want to put your email address, then Labor Arts can reach out to you. Labor Arts is one of the organizations that I've grown to know and love as an activist here in New York City, along with the Triangle Fire Coalition. Labor Arts with Esther and with Rachel at the helm have educated many of us about the beauty of workers and working class struggle. The Labor Arts website is easy to remember, laborarts.org. Just go on there and be exposed to the history of workers, the history of the labor movement, and please sign up, and you're going to learn more than you could have ever imagined. Is so exciting. And thank you for supporting the Remember the Triangle Fire Coalition and Labor Arts, and thank you for being here for the Clara Lemlich Awards.
We're lucky because we have one last song here. We have one last song. I want to thank you all, Rachel, and I want to thank you all for coming here and celebrating these fantastic women. Let's have one last round of applause for these fantastic women.
So, I expect that you will at some point join in with us. All right? Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land, yeah. Don't you let nobody turn you around, no. Focus on your dreams. Let's go to higher ground. Don't you let no hatred turn you around, turn you around, turn you around. Don't you let no hatred turn you around. Keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Yes, don't let nobody turn you around. Come on, y'all, turn you around, turn you around. Love and understanding is the highest ground. Keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom. land. Yes. God bless you. Good night.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you next year.